No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wood, and this is Outspoken Live, episode number 251. And I have to be honest with you, Britain's corrupted MSM, corrupted elite class, still do not get it. Can you believe they are doing all they can to deny and obfuscate over the worst scandal in British history, the full-scale cover-up of the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs?
They're not all Pakistani. Plenty of them are white, and plenty of them are women on and off. You see women in the group as well.
It's 90% Pakistani men.
Listen, John, nobody is denying that there are grooming gangs in all.
It isn't.
I'm not suggesting it isn't.
It's not all. It's not all, but it's 90 to 95%.
No, it isn't 90 to 95%. It isn't, John. And also, John. Also,
the grooming gangs. What they're doing, the drugs, get them involved in drugs and pimping them out. They are done by Pakistani grooming gangs.
Not only.
And even the author of the new report, Baroness Casey, is disappointingly buying into the dishonest left-wing narrative.
Say empirically about how accurate that charge is, that there is a particular problem and that this problem is centred around Pakistani men.
So I would just urge enormous caution of the opposition leader making political football out of anything, which, sorry, that's quite a tough thing to say. I just wish people wouldn't, because at the heart of it is the victims and then Pakistani heritage communities.
So I'll take on why the cover-up continues in my digest next. Then, joining Father Calvin Robinson on today's Superstar panel, rape gang campaigner Raja Miah, who has risked it all over this issue. Also coming up on the show today, Britain now clearly in moral decline as abortion is decriminalised up until birth after a 46-minute backbench debate in the House of Commons. Meghan Markle's BFF and the godfather of Princess Lilibet, Tyler Perry, an ardent critic of the royal family, has been accused of sex assault. So what will the fake Duchess do now? And Lorraine Kelly, under fire for her cold and soulless announcement of the death of the late, great Kim Woodburn. I'll show you what happened live on ITV Daytime and explain the reasons behind it. Then, in the uncancelled after show on Substack, Buckingham Palace hits back at Meghan Markle's claims that she wants the truth about her time in the royal family to be revealed. We'll team up with the Royal News Network for all the latest, including this slightly worrying, breaking story today. And we'll find out what's behind Catherine, the Princess of Wales, pulling out of Royal Ascot at the last minute. So you can sign up to watch on Substack right now, www.outspoken.live, sending all of our best wishes to Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and hoping that she is okay. We'll also reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass at the end of the show. But you know, it's chosen by you, so you can vote on your nominees or on the winner from the three nominees right now in the live chat on YouTube. Here's who is fighting for the prize that no one wants today. Sheila Fogarty, nominated by Boggywood, who says she's a shining example of stupid who still doesn't believe that the rape gangs are Pakistani. Nurinder Kaur, nominated by the Griff Report because she's gone very silent when the grooming gang report was published, probably realising she's on the wrong side of history, like the rest of the lefties. And Tonya Antoniazzi, nominated by History Nerd 89. She's the reason why the MPs voted to legalise abortion. He calls her sick and evil for tabling this amendment in the first place. And I'm sure Father Calvin Robinson is going to have much to say on this shocking development a little bit later in the show. So do stick with us. A big, big day of news. So let's go. Without Elon Musk, I actually think it's impossible to believe that slippery Starmer's degenerate government of the falling United Kingdom, where abortion is now not criminal, even up until the moment of birth, would have been forced to U-turn on launching a national inquiry into the worst scandal in British history, the full-scale cover-up of the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs. Musk, now free of his Trump administration constraints, posted on X, "High time there was justice for the mass rape of little girls in Britain. This moral stain cannot be washed away." but shockingly, appallingly, but almost horrendously predictably, the reaction from the Westminster establishment and corrupted British MSM suggests that's exactly what they're attempting to do. Wash this moral atrocity away. As my friend and former GB News presenter Colin Brazier outlined brilliantly on Musk's free speech platform, listening to some MSM presenters triangulating over their coverage of the grooming story is like being back in Iraq and listening to the deranged regime apologetics of comical Ali. It didn't matter what was happening on the ground. Ali could find a way of defending the indefensible. Indeed, it feels like many of these compulsive liars refused to read the 197-page Casey report, which made clear in very sensitive terms that the issue is indeed Pakistani Muslim men. Case in point one, Sheila Fogarty of the Labour Broadcasting Company, who, as Basil the Great posted, caller says the majority of grooming gangs are Pakistani men. Sheila Fogarty says they're not. She continues to try and gaslight the nation with made-up nonsense figures that the Casey report has rubbished already. Her time will come for the part she played in the cover-up. Now, if you don't believe that that is what Sheila Fogarty did, watch this atrocity, this new clip that I think should finally see her banished from the airwaves.
The whole of the country needs to know that there's gangs of Pakistani men going around targeting young, white, helpless English girls and getting them on drugs and pimping them out to their friends and family and raping them 10 a day, 20 a day.
Listen, John.
Scout clubs and all this stuff. In fact, we know that goes on.
Yeah.
But this is the biggest scandal ever this country has ever known.
But
and if we don't have inquiry, we won't all
Do you
know.
accept that it isn't just Pakistani men?
In the grooming gangs, it basically is.
No, it isn't. It isn't. Then you, John, haven't been watching the news closely enough.
I have been watching the news. The grooming gangs.
They're not all Pakistani. Plenty of them are white, and plenty of them are women on and off. You see women in the group as well.
It's 90% Pakistani men.
Listen, John, nobody is denying that there are grooming gangs in all.
It isn't.
I'm not suggesting it isn't.
It's not all. It's not all, but it's 90 to 95%.
No, it isn't 90 to 95%. It isn't, John. And also, John. Also,
the grooming gangs. What they're doing, the drugs, getting them involved in drugs and pimping them out, they are done by Pakistani grooming gangs.
Not only.
Oh, come on. You know what?
That's all I'm saying.
You can't keep whitewashing this subject.
I'm not whitewashing anything, John. The other thing you've got wrong, John, the other thing you've got wrong is to suggest that this has been happening for 20-odd years only. This has happened for
20, 30 years.
It's happened and 10 years before that, and 10 years before that, and 10 years before that, and 10 years before that. There have always been, John, there have always been predatory men individually and together who...
This is a new thing. This is a new thing. This grooming gang thing, this is a new thing.
It's really not a new thing.
She is a disgrace. Sheila Fogarty, this is your lowest moment. Because no one could read that 197-page report. I read every word. No one could read it and take away from it that the issue is women. Or the issue is white men. But of course, this is a line being peddled by the equally horrendous Susanna Reid on Woke ITV's Good Morning Britain.
I just want to ask you specifically, you say most of this abuse is caused by or perpetrated by men of Pakistani origin. The figures that I have seen show that most of this child sexual abuse is actually committed by white perpetrators, but there is a disproportionate amount of abuse of this type committed by men of Pakistani origin. Are you taking issue with that statistic when you say most is caused by men of Pakistani origin? I just think we need to be careful with the terms here as well.
So you might be referring to some police data from 20...
I'm sitting at motorway services.
Oh my God, and we will come to Tommy Robinson in just one moment. The problem is, for our elite class, who have been lying over this issue for years, it's a painful thing to have to admit that they completely missed the scandal, that they got it wrong, that they accused anyone of telling the truth of being racist. Some of them, Sheila Fogarty, Susanna Reid, just cannot admit that. Then you have James O'Brien. Now, Queen Natalie on X pointed out, you can see the mental torture in his mind as he tries to restrain himself from labelling this caller racist. And I want you to watch for yourself what she was referring to, and you can visibly see the pained expression on James O'Brien's face as he understands that he will forever be on the wrong side of history.
It's difficult to say I disrupted a paedophile ring, but a child disclosed sexual abuse to me, and I reported it, and by the time that everything had been checked and done, we found out that it was a massive family, an extended family group. They all lived in houses next door to each other or across the road from each other. And when the police raided the place, there was the top, you can imagine what old houses are like, they terraced houses. The police raided it and they'd knocked through the attics of 4 or 5 of the houses to make a video film studio.
Oh, no.
And so, and the thing was, there were members of staff at the school, when obviously it came out, said, but I taught his cousin. I taught her. It was boys and girls. And it turned out that it was just a massive family group spreading out across the whole city. And they were using family friends. It was as if they had grown up together, the adults.
Yeah.
Had grown up together and knew that this was possible and just extended and extended and extended. It was massive.
He cannot believe what he's hearing, and he knows that he can no longer accuse a caller like that of just being racist. Now, what about over at the fake news agents, where Emily Maitlis recently accused Rupert Lowe for being racist for saying exactly the same thing as the Casey report now has?
Pakistani Muslims raping working-class white underage girls. Do you not think there's an issue there?
I think there is an appalling issue with grooming
are you
when
telling
it
me,
hits any community and any age.
Are you
we
telling
only
me,
ever hear
are
you talk about
there's no
Pakistani
issue?
perpetrators.
Are you telling me there's no issue?
I'm telling you that you are focusing on Pakistani grooming gangs because probably you're racist and you don't believe that there are white perpetrators of the same crime. Can you deny that?
I am concentrating on it because it's a blot on our national history.
Isn't any grooming a blot on our history?
It has not been properly dealt with.
Isn't any grooming a blot on our history? Why don't you talk about anyone else?
Well, when the fake news agents had Baroness Casey on overnight, they unsurprisingly didn't label her racist. But what frustrated me is that she still played into their left-wing tropes. Watch.
You've got to be utterly responsible with data anyway, but specifically when it's around protected characteristics.
Well, and I know this is difficult, and I think it's really important to be precise about this. And I know that the data is imperfect. One of the conclusions of your report is that the data is imperfect and it needs to be much better. But at the centre of this, the politics of this, the political question, which is constantly prosecuted, we've even seen it be prosecuted this morning from Kemi Badenoch, is that there is a particular problem with Pakistani men and group-based child sexual exploitation.
Has Kemi Badenoch said that this morning?
Well, what I'm saying is that she has been out this morning holding a press conference saying that this has been ignored for political reasons for far too long, and that therefore this is a sort of, it's been part of a cover-up and so on. From what you can see, what does your report say empirically about how accurate that charge is, that there is a particular problem and that this problem is centred around Pakistani men?
So I would just urge enormous caution of the opposition leader making political football out of anything, which, sorry, that's quite a tough thing to say. I just wish people wouldn't, because at the heart of it is the victims and then Pakistani heritage community.
Now, look, Casey's report is brilliant, and it is very, very sad for me that it's clear that she is a member of this elite class who is more concerned about social cohesion than actually admitting that someone like Tommy Robinson was right.
About sort of racism that flows from that is actually a gift to racists. I mean, all of this is a gift to the racists. If good people don't look at difficult issues, bad people will, and even worse people will then exploit them. So, that's my general view of difficult things that I've been asked to look at in life, and this is now the other. So we established that. And then I thought to myself, or we thought to ourselves, let's go and look at some of the large police forces where they have been, there are sufficient numbers of child sexual exploitation cases of a group-based nature for us to look at, can they collect ethnicity or not? And yes, they can. So that made me even more cross with the central aspects of this, because if you've got two very large police forces and then Operation Stovewood in South Yorkshire able to collect that data, why can't I have that data? Why, as a previous Home Secretary or a previous policing minister or the Minister for Equalities, dare I say it, why can't they look at that data and interrogate it if I just get on a train to West Yorkshire and find it?
But to be clear, does the data, such as we have, does it vindicate the idea that has been levelled for some years now, that there is a particular problem among Pakistani men or groups of Pakistani men with group-based child sexual exploitation?
There is enough in the audit of looking at these three areas and the disproportionality in these are fully accurate details to take you to a position of disproportionality. So let's do Greater Manchester for a minute, because I asked them to run two separate data sets for me. We've got live and historic child sexual exploitation, group-based, very accurate, multiple offenders, multiple victims. It is significantly disproportionately Asian and Pakistani heritage.
Okay, so we got there. But the problem is that you've got someone like Lewis Goodall now pretending to care about the facts when he for years has been an activist presenter accusing people like Suella Braverman of all sorts for stating the facts.
You asserted that perpetrators of child grooming gangs in the UK were almost all British Pakistani. Now you had to, that was chastised, wasn't it? Entirely rightly, because it was a false claim.
Well, I disagree with the ruling from IPSO, and subsequent reports and data has shown that to be wrong. Lewis, what you're doing is you're zooming out. You're zooming out and you're looking at it from the broad umbrella.
I put it to you again, you may say you disagree with it. What do you disagree about with the IPSO claim that said that what you said about the clear majority or virtually all of grooming gangs being almost all British Pakistani, when IPSO said to you that what you said was significantly misleading, and the Mail on Sunday had to actually put in a retraction of it? What do you disagree about?
Right, so again, Lewis, so what you're doing is what you always do, which is why you've got a lot, you've called it wrong on a lot of political issues in recent months and years. You're fixating on tone. You're fixating on tone. And
I'm not fixating on tone. It's about facts, Suella Braverman. So it's about facts.
I've responded to your
said that what you said was significantly misleading.
I've responded to your question about IPSO,
well,
which is I disagree with the ruling. They've based it on a flawed set of data.
Now, I will await the apology from Lewis Goodall, but we'll be waiting forever. Just like we'll be waiting forever for the apologies from scumbag liars Jess Phillips, Owen Jones and Slippery Starmer too.
Politicians, and I mean politicians, who sat in government for many years, are casual about honesty, decency, truth and the rule of law, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
About vulnerable white girls being targeted by British Pakistani grooming gangs. Now, that is the sort of thing you would have expected to read in BNP leaflets, and which not that long ago would actually have been condemned by Tory and Labour politicians alike. But we are in 2023 in the worst possible timeline. It's not true. It's really important to make this very, very clear.
Look, people have turned a blind eye. There's no I'm not denying that.
Including you?
Absolutely not me. I have never turned a blind eye. I never would shy away from calling a problem what it is.
But what the Casey report has done is expose those scumbags and expose the official narrative while significantly boosting the credibility of those folk who were warning of the scandal for years at great personal cost. Tommy Robinson, has responded to this today, writing, "I never wanted to be in a position of saying I told you so. I came out of prison all guns blazing after 7 months in solitary, and in all honesty, it's hit me, and I feel wrecked. I will be taking time with my children for the next few weeks, and the news of the inquiry makes the way I'm currently feeling a lot easier to handle. But whatever any of us has gone through is nothing in comparison to what so many of Britain's daughters were subjected to. The public still have no idea the true scale of this rape jihad. Well done to every brave survivor who told their stories and continue to fight for justice. This rape scandal is the darkest stain ever on Britain." Now, I take no joy in saying this, but the fact that the MSM, the fact that our elite class remain in denial over this scandal proves that we are unfortunately a society in decline. Now, joining Father Calvin Robinson on today's Superstar panel, another one of those brave men who put everything on the line to expose what went on with the grooming gangs, the campaigner, Raja Miah, who has risked it all over this issue. Great to have you both here. Father Calvin will come to you very shortly. But Raja, welcome to Outspoken. So many people have been asking for you to come on the show, and it's brilliant to have you here. I want to get your reaction first, given everything you know, given everything that you have put on the line over the years, and I've watched your many interviews exposing exactly what you did when it came to this scandal. How do you feel when you see members of the elite class, like Sheila Fogarty on LBC, still trying to say that this is actually an issue with white men or with women, and just seemingly denying the reality of the scandal?
They always knew, Dan. Let's be clear. They always knew the truth. And they hid behind these reports, these lies, these fake data sets and the platforms that they had. And they demonized every one of us who simply saw this as children being systematically gang raped on an industrial scale, religiously justified, racially motivated. The scandal should shame every one of us, Dan, because no matter what I did, no matter what Tommy did, Maggie Oliver did, if you ask all of us, we all say we didn't do enough. We should have done more.
Really?
What happened to these children? What happened to the children?
But I mean, you tried so hard, and you were a man with great credibility. For people who don't know, you were advised the government in the past, you had an MBE, you're a member of the Muslim community, but yet you were rebuffed so many times, including, by the way, you were rebuffed by the mainstream media, weren't you?
I am, to all extents and purposes, blacklisted from the mainstream media to this day. Not one of them will interview me. To my credentials are what they are, Dan, and they hate it because I am, I do have an MBE. I sat in rooms with multiple prime ministers, advice secretaries of state, 25-year career in safeguarding children and protecting our communities from violent extremists. That's my world, Dan. And
yet you're still blacklisted. Even now, you're blacklisted by the mainstream media.
Worse than that, they falsified evidence, had me maliciously prosecuted, failed case after case collapsed against me. The mainstream media printed lies that had been arrested as part of a child sex exploitation ring myself. All of this happened. All of this was coordinated. The entire machinery of the state has mobilized, not just against me, but against so many of us. And it's to facilitate this cover-up. And what this cover-up is fundamentally about is it goes beyond the grooming gangs. You've got to understand our children were sold as currency for votes. And that's what this goes to. And that's why they're all hiding it. This isn't just another child abuse scandal. And that's as bad as it can be. Our children were sold to certain communities for votes in the main. And secondly, what you've got is this belief in a multicultural utopia that has clearly and comprehensively failed because
But they
these
can't
men-
admit that, can they? They
no,
can't admit
because
that.
they will never admit that. They'll take it to their graves. They won't admit that. But and look at me, look at the sort of person I am. And I'm telling you, the multicultural model that these people promoted has comprehensively failed because they never looked at these communities and said, some of the barbaric behavior and cultural traits that you have has no place here.
Father Calvin Robinson, I mean, when you listen to Raja's story, and then when you actually see the evidence of someone like Sheila Fogarty, someone like Susanna Reid, still in denial, even actually some of the language that Baroness Casey herself is using about this, it's very difficult to avoid the conclusion that the mainstream media is a huge part of the problem here.
Of course it is, because it's entirely liberal, and liberals are the problem. Facts, evidence don't actually matter to them as much as their utopia that they want to build. They have this image of a world that they want to create that is better than the world that we're in, a world that will never exist. You know, communists have always had this idea of a utopia, and that is more important to them than the lives of these young survivors that have been groomed and raped and abused for decades. It's abysmal that everything nothing is more important to them than their worldview. And so you can put the girls in front of them, you can put the evidence, the statistics, the demographics in front of them. It doesn't actually matter, because in their head they're saying this can't be true because it'll be racist, and if it's racist it disrupts my worldview of a multi-ethnic, multicultural society of everyone loving each other equally and diversity, inclusion, equality. It may be lovely, but it's not real life. In real life, there is clearly a problem with Pakistani Muslim men, in particular in Britain, grooming and raping and abusing young British girls. And this needs to be addressed. And it can't be addressed if the Liberals continue to want to brush it under the carpet because it rocks the boat, a boat that they do not want rocking.
So how do you respond to that, Raja, as a Muslim man?
Well, I say to you, first and foremost, my lived reality is that not all cultures are equal. And that's my experience, and I believe that to be a fact. Not all cultures are equal. And what I say to you, if you want to put the lens of a Muslim man on me, what I will say to you is this: there is a massive problem within the Muslim community in the way in which it views white culture, white women, white working class girls. There's an added cultural dynamic in this, specifically within the Pakistani community. And Tommy Robinson is right to use the phrase rape jihad. Elon Musk made reference to rape genocide, I think, when he referred to Jess Phillips at one point early in January. All of those terms are right, because that's the worldview. These are racially motivated crimes, and they're religiously justified. They've gone into the scriptures and found the bits that justify their evil. And I am not a scholar. I'm not an imam or any of that type of thing. I'm just a bloke who's trying to raise a daughter and live in a town. And in front of me was put a dossier of evidence by a man who's now departed, Warren Bates, who's passed away. And I looked at him, and he was desperate. And I looked at myself, and I thought, can I walk away from this? And I've come to this conclusion, rightly or wrongly. I don't know, Father Calvin might have a better understanding of it, but this is a fight between good and evil. This is simply a fight between good and evil. And these people are evil, and the people who protect them are just as evil, Dan.
Exactly. And as you say, protect them for votes, which is absolutely in Jess Phillips.
This is 100%.
Case.
They are protecting these children for votes. I have got dossiers of evidence that clearly demonstrated that serving government ministers were complicit with BBC journalists in hiding how children in my town were being dragged off the streets, pulled into shisha bars, where they were being drugged and gang raped in rooms that they rented out by the hour. They all knew, Dan. And when Andy Burnham published his report, he tried to hide it, his assurance review, but it's in the report as well. They all knew. And now when cases come along, the reason why cases come along, and I'm overwhelmed by this, Dan, the reason why cases come along is people like me and so many others, and I've lost members of my team. They've died before this came, Dan. This is how long we've been at it. And we were relentless in our pursuit of getting this out. And we campaigned and we campaigned, and no matter how many times they arrested us, no matter what they wrote about us, how, you know, senior politicians in my town have direct links with organized crime from within this Pakistani community. And Charlie Peters did an article, a piece not long ago, where he drew a correlation between the heroin trade and the rape gangs and overlapping. This is all organized. It's been going on for such a long time. And if the truth comes out, and we'll continue this till we die if need be done. But
Yes.
once the truth comes out, this government will fall and
Yes.
the Labour Party will be finished, because they
Yes.
traded children for votes, and it doesn't matter how many lawyers
Cannot forgive that.
they sent to me, they sold children for votes.
And you cannot forgive that. Father Calvin, good versus evil, this battle?
It is a battle between good and evil. The problem is good isn't fighting it, never mind winning it. At the moment, we have all the evidence in front of us that the Pakistani Muslim demographic makes up, 4% of the population in Britain, but 65% of the child sexual abuse and child sexual exploitation. That is a statistic that needs to be addressed immediately. We're having debates about whether we can even have the conversation. You know, I remember when I had my show on GB News, the conversation was about, you can't call them rape gangs, they're grooming gangs. It's like, we're arguing over etymology and language. What we should be arguing over is, how do we deport every single Pakistani Muslim in Britain if there's a clear problem with that particular community that is harming and raping our girls? We're literally allowing people to rape young British girls for what? Not just for votes, for this Marxist utopia. We need to deport every single Pakistani Muslim, block the borders. No more Muslims from Pakistan can come into the United Kingdom. And those that have committed these horrible abuses, these horrible grooming and raping of young girls, need to be hanged. We need to bring back the death penalty for this. This is how good fights back, but we're not willing to do it. We're barely willing to have the conversation. So I don't know how we're going to turn things around.
100%, because the public are always ignored over these issues. Always ignored. Mass immigration, we've been ignored for 60 years. Bringing back the death penalty, specifically, especially if you ask people if it's about a crime like this, a heinous crime like this against a child, is overwhelmingly popular. But very few politicians are prepared to back it, and you have to wonder why. 46 minutes. 46 minutes. That is how long it took for our degenerate political class to decriminalize abortion up until the day of birth in the United Kingdom. So yes, I hate to say it, I hate to admit it, but we are a society in decline, and this was always what was going to happen if Slippery Starmer was allowed to lead this country. But for the mainstream media, this is just normal. Look at the Politico coverage of this. They headlined this despicable development as "No abortion wars, please, we're British." And this was their reporting on the matter. Tonya Antoniazzi's amendment to the Crime and Policing Bill to stop women in England and Wales being prosecuted for terminating their pregnancies passed by a majority of 242 votes, 379 MPs in favour to 137 against. Women acting alone to end their own pregnancy will no longer be prosecuted at any gestation, assuming the amendment gets through the Lords. They wrote, "It marks the biggest change to reproductive rights in nearly 60 years, and it wasn't even close." And I repeat, it took 46 minutes for this law to be ushered through Parliament. Belinda DeLucy posted on this, "It feels like there is a death cult element to this Labour Party. They seem scarily determined to make it easier to take life. There was no movement or protest pushing for such a huge change. It was not even in their manifesto. How could they?" And Right to Life UK quite rightly shared this video of Jerome Mayhew. Watch.
Irrespective of our position on the vote that we've just taken, or the votes rather, we have to acknowledge that we have made a major change to abortion law, and yet that was on the basis of no evidence session, no committee stage scrutiny, 46 minutes just 46 minutes of backbench debate and a government minister wind-up who refused to take any interventions. And that's when the chamber is full of single one-line debates. So can you give me advice on, if we want to continue like this, how can we improve our rules so we don't have this situation in the future?
46 minutes. This is a degenerate parliament. And you know, there were even Conservatives who voted for this. Connor Tomlinson pointed it out. 8 Conservative MPs just voted to decriminalise abortion up till birth in Britain. He's listed them there. Afra Brandeth, Caroline Dinage, she should not be a Conservative, terrible woman. Luke Evans, Kit Malthouse, Andrew Mitchell, Niall Shasty-Hurst, Ben Spencer, Laura Trott. He wrote, what are you conserving? If you're willing to let women kill unborn children, is there any tradition or taboo that you won't join progressive revolutionaries in breaking? Every one of them should have the whip removed. And actually, so many women I respect are absolutely disgusted by this decision. Sophie Kikoran posted, Reform can't claim to be the official opposition if their leader doesn't turn up to vote. And one of the most consequential and downright dangerous ones there is. You're not the official opposition if you can't be asked to turn up and actually oppose. That's in reference to the fact Nigel Farage didn't bother to vote. Former Reform UK member Maria Botal posted, the list of MPs who are pro-murder makes me sick. This anger will not subside easily. How far will we allow our ethics to drop before we say enough? For the love of all that is holy, please, please do not re-elect a single one of them. Former Prime Minister Liz Truss. This is horrifying. It needs to be reversed. This is not what our country believes or stands for. Julia Hartley-Brewer, the talk presenter. It's not a step forward in reproductive rights. This was responding to The Guardian political editor Pippa Carrera. This is a legal challenge that 97% of women in this country oppose. How can killing a baby the day after it is born be murder, but killing that same baby the day before be a legal act? That's not feminism, that's madness. Sharon Davies, the Olympic legend, swimming legend, posted, my granddaughter was born at 37 weeks. I'm horrified. We have made it legal in the UK for healthy babies to be terminated up to the day before they're due. Let's hope the House of Lords stops this. So euthanasia for our old and infirm, and now anyone can get rid of their baby with no repercussions. This does not represent public opinion. Why are these things happening? I don't recognise my country anymore. And Sarah Vine linked this decision last night with the shocking case of Lucy Letby, who, remember, I believe is innocent, but that's another story. She wrote, Lucy Letby's youngest victim was born at 29 weeks. She died in her 30th week. And yet Parliament has today sanctioned the killing of babies up to 41 weeks of gestation. Where is the logic in that? Where is the morality? Why is one murder and the other not? Has anyone stopped to think this through? Back to my superstar panel now. Father Calvin Robinson, 46 minutes. Is this a degenerate parliament?
It's incredibly degenerate. I'm trying not to be Jordan Peterson and cry on air, but this has hit me really hard. I can't believe our country has fallen this far so quickly. And it's worse than these people, the tweets you've just read, it's worse than these people realize, because what it does is it essentially legalizes abortion, and people say, no, it's decriminalization, but it's not, because it's decriminalization without any penalty whatsoever. So in essence, it legalizes abortion for any reason, at any time, up to and during birth. So it's not even the people who are saying, well, you know, your baby could be born one day, but the day before it could be killed. No, the baby can now be killed while the woman is on the surgical table with her legs open, with the baby's head approaching. They can cut open the head and vacuum the brains of the baby out. Or they can leave the baby on the side to cry itself to death, as they call it, which is, of course, starving and dying of thirst. This is just monstrous. It is sheer evil that we have a government that has voted this through with hardly any debate, just clearly pushed it through, and the opposition didn't oppose it. In fact, the opposition, not most, but some of the opposition voted for it. I'm absolutely disgusted by our country. And I think if our king truly was a defender of the faith, he would dissolve Parliament immediately. I can't think of anything worse than killing the most vulnerable in our society, which of course is the unborn baby. And to allow this, to decriminalize this for any stage, right up until the moment the baby is being born. What are we? We are, it's inhumane.
Raja Miah, how do you feel about this?
I have a daughter, Dan. I was there at her birth, and when she was born, clearly there was, there's a soul there. I believe in all of those sorts of things. Life is sacred, Dan. I'm a firm believer life is sacred, and what you're seeing here isn't just evil. What you're seeing here is a consequence of brainwashing. There's a generation of our people, or two generations in this country, who've gone through a very liberal, ultra-liberal education system that has took them to a place where they think this, not only is this normal, but, there you go, for a woman's right to choose. Since when was killing a child a right? Since when did that become a right in this way? And you look at the small print, and you can now also get pills. You can just get pills ordered that arrive in the post, and you can just take some pills, and that's the end of it. It's crazy. It's not just immoral. It's just a reflection of where our society is going, and we've got to ask ourselves why it's going there, and is there anything we can do to save it?
Indeed. Father Calvin, I wanted to play you what the Labour MP behind this law change said in Parliament, how she framed this, so that you can respond directly to her. So this is Tonya Antonazzi. Watch.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the public overwhelmingly support this change as well. I implore colleagues not to lose sight of the moral imperative here, namely vulnerable women being dragged from hospital bed to police cell on suspicion of ending their own pregnancies. This is urgent. We know multiple women are still in the system awaiting a decision, accused of breaking this law. They cannot afford to wait. We have, Madam Deputy Speaker, a once-in-a-lifetime generation, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to put an end to this in a simple and secure manner. This is the right change at the right time. I implore colleagues who want to protect women and girls and abortion services to vote for new Clause 1. Let's ensure that not a single desperate woman ever again is subject to traumatic criminal investigation at the worst moments in their lives. There must be no more Lauras, and there must be no more Nicola Packers, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Father Calvin, your response.
So she's lying. Firstly, I saw screenshots on Twitter of this person and people blaming this person for putting forward the amendment. I assumed it was a bloke. I actually genuinely didn't know this was a woman. She's saying that a majority of the public support this. That's a lie, outrageous lie in the House. So she's manipulating the other her peers. She's saying this is a moral imperative. The moral imperative is to protect the vulnerable, is to be a voice to the voiceless, is to give people the right to live, or to support their right to live, not to take that right away. And she's talking about vulnerable women. Well, the most vulnerable women are the ones who feel pressured and forced into abortions, and actually the trauma that these women often suffer, these women and girls often suffer as a result of killing their own baby. Sometimes they never get over that. And so this is actually not morally imperative. This is the opposite of that. It's monstrous. And of course, she's talking about the consequences of, the law. So people who have broken the law and had abortions in late term past the legal limit. Of course, there should be no legal limit. Nobody should be killing babies. But there is a legal limit at the moment, or there was. And so women that broke that law suffered some consequences, not very severe consequences, unfortunately. But yes, there should be consequences. If you kill a baby, there should absolutely be consequences. And we need to make them all the more severe. So we need to help and support vulnerable women and girls so that they don't think that killing their baby is an option. And so they have alternative options, and they have all the kindness and love and support they need. But the monstrous ones that do go forward with this, they do need to suffer the consequences for it, absolutely. And it's a great shame on our nation that we have an established state church and I still haven't heard them speak out against this whatsoever. The Catholic Church has made an announcement, and credit to them for that, although it was a bit of a tut-tut. It wasn't very fiery, but I'm waiting to hear from the Church of England and from His Majesty the King. Someone needs to speak out against this.
Father Calvin, what's quite interesting is there's a lot of folk on the left who are saying privately, I've been reading this in the mainstream media, saying privately, actually, Labour don't know what they have just done here, because isn't this going to put the whole issue of abortion back on the table in the United Kingdom? I mean, I know Nigel Farage didn't turn up to vote. However, he has said that he does not support abortion past 24 weeks. But Sarah Pochin, who is the new Reform UK MP for Runcorn and Halsby, has now said that she believes that 24 weeks is far too far into a pregnancy, and she is calling for further term limits. So I know there's nothing positive out of a law like this, but do you believe that it now puts the whole issue of abortion in the United Kingdom back onto the table and makes it part of the ongoing culture war?
Yeah, it is so monstrous, so overtly evil that even the lefties are a bit like, whoa, that's a bit too far. So yes, it does bring the conversation back up, because we've had this elitist, snobby mentality in Britain for a while now that we don't do the abortion thing. That's what the Americans do. We don't debate that. Like it's beneath us or something to want to protect vulnerable life. And so yes, the conversation is back, and we have to be aiming for abolition, to abolish abortion entirely. We live in a medical marvel age in that there is never, ever a reason in Britain to be killing a baby. People say, what about if the mother's life is at risk? The mother's life is never at risk in terms of you need to kill the baby to save the mother. That is never the case. But also, mothers should want to protect their baby, even at the risk of their own lives. People say, what about in the cases of rape or incest, which account for roughly 1% of all abortions in the UK? So it's not even the majority reason. But even if it was, rape is awful, and the man should be hanged if he's raped a woman. Yes, kill the man who raped, kill the rapist rather. Don't kill the baby. The baby's innocent in this. The baby is vulnerable. The baby did nothing wrong. And so if someone has to die, it should be the rapist, absolutely. And in terms of incest, again, you've got to have different situations to solve the problems, not kill the baby who is a consequence of the problems. And so in this modern age, there should be absolutely zero abortion in the West. And unfortunately, it's one of the greatest killers of people in the West. We have over 200,000 abortions every single year in the UK. More people die of that than of anything else, including COVID. It's absolutely absurd that we're letting people get away with infanticide and promoting it as a good thing. A woman's right to choose, a woman's reproductive health care. It's not reproductive because it's killing reproduction. It's not healthy because it's killing a baby. It's not caring because it's killing a baby. And it's not a right. No one has the right to choose to kill someone else, to end someone else's life. What kind of right is that? We all have a right to life, and that right is God-given. It's not from the state. It's not from the House of Commons. It's certainly not from any individual. It's from God. And so no one else has the right to take that away.
Breaking today, Meghan Markle is under growing pressure to speak out after her best friend and the godfather to Princess Lilibet was accused of sex assault. Now, this is Tyler Perry. He is, of course, the famous American entertainment industry figure, and the revelations coming from TMZ, which reports he's been sued for sexual assault by an Oval actor who says he suffered for years at the hands of this man. Now, why Meghan is coming under pressure here is because she has a track record of throwing very significant friends under the bus at the slightest sign of trouble. I mean, do you remember Jessica Mulrooney, her best friend before her wedding? So much so that her daughter Ivy was one of Meghan's bridesmaids. She was immediately kicked to the curb, never to be seen again, at the slightest hint of racism during the Black Lives Matter scandal. And by the way, Jessica Mulrooney, in my opinion, had done nothing wrong. Now, the evidence that is being reported by TMZ, or at least the allegations, are far, far more shocking than anything Jessica Mulrooney was ever accused of. Indeed, the publication has produced a whole load of text messages between Tyler Perry and this man, which I'll go into in one moment. Now, Tyler Perry is not a good guy here because, do you remember, he was the one who popped up in Meghan Markle's Netflix documentary with Prince Harry and absolutely tore to pieces the British royal family, indeed saying that he would not have agreed to become the godfather of Princess Lilibet if it meant attending the christening in Britain. Remember, that would have been a christening that would have featured the Queen, the late Queen. Watch this.
We'll call and we'll chat and we'll talk about silly things. And they were pretty serious on the phone. I go, okay, what's going on? And they said, well, we'd like for you to be Lily's godfather. I go, well, I'd take a minute to take that in. And I thought I'd be honored. I'd absolutely be honored. And I got off the phone, took it all in, then I called him back. I go, hold on a second. Does this mean we got to go over there and do all of that in the church with them and figure all that out? Because I don't want to do that. Maybe we can do a little private ceremony here and let that be that. And if you have to do it there, then it's okay.
So let that sink in. This is a man who believes that he is so holier than thou, so high and mighty, who has brought into all of Meghan's total lies about racism within the royal family, so much so that he did not want to attend a Church of England christening attended by the head of the Church of England, the late Queen Elizabeth II. Yet these revelations from TMZ, this lawsuit, paints Tyler Perry in a very different light. Let me take you through the accusations. Tyler Perry, TMZ reports, facing sexual assault claims from an actor on his long-running TV show, The Oval, yet Tyler's camp calls this a scam. Derek Dixon filed a lawsuit against Perry, and in the docs he claims he and the director met at an event back in 2019. In Derek's words, Tyler picked him out of the crowd and asked for his phone number, suggesting he might have a role for him. As it turns out, he did. Derek says Tyler gave him a small role in 2 episodes of a show called Ruthless. Then, in January 2020, Derek says Tyler invited him to his Atlanta home and he accepted, hoping to build a friendship that would lead to more acting gigs. But according to the suit, while there, Derek drank too much and ended up sleeping in a guest room. In the docs obtained by TMZ, Derek claims Tyler got into bed with him and started touching his thighs. And although he rejected the advances that night, he claims Tyler remains interested. Shortly thereafter, Derek says he landed the role of Dale in The Oval. Great for his career, but he claims it was around this time that Tyler also started firing off sexually suggestive texts, including asking what Drew's sexual preferences were and telling him he has sex with men. Derek also notes his character Dale was written as a gay, homeless, and desperate store clerk who had to sleep with other characters for a place to stay. He claims that's exactly what Tyler told him he was looking for in a real-life sexual partner, someone who would be loyal and dependent upon Tyler. Derek says he feared his career would be derailed if he flatly rejected Tyler, so instead he told him he just wasn't the sexual type. But he was always terrified he'd lose his job if he complained of sexual harassment. To that point, he says Tyler once again invited him to Atlanta later in 2020 and things allegedly took a dark turn. Derek claims Perry greeted him warmly, but quickly started a sexually charged conversation, like asking him if he likes it rough in bed, and then grabbed Derek by the throat while saying, "Look how excited you just got." He says he pushed Tyler away, and that was the end of that alleged incident. The lawsuit includes years of text messages allegedly sent between both men. Most of the ones Tyler allegedly sent are sexually charged. For example, one reads, "No straight man would be going on walks with you or cooking dinner for you unless they wanted to F you. I would F you." The most aggressive incident allegedly went down in June 2021, again at Tyler's Atlanta home. Dixon was staying in the guest house and wearing only his underwear when he says Tyler came in to give him a goodnight hug. He alleges Tyler yanked down his underwear, groped his butt, and said relax and just let it happen, and assured him it wasn't going to hurt. Dixon says he managed to rebuff this advance by changing the subject. According to the suit, Dixon finally filed a complaint with Equal Employment and Opportunity Commission in June 2024 and then quit the Oval, saying he could no longer put up with the alleged sexual harassment. Dixon is suing Tyler and Tyler Perry Studios for quid pro quo and workplace sexual harassment and sexual assault and battery, and he's seeking $260 million in damages. Tyler's attorney, Matthew Boyd, told TMZ, this is an individual who got close to Tyler Perry for what now appears to be nothing more than setting up a scam, but Tyler will not be shaken down, and we are confident these fabricated claims of harassment will fail. However, you can imagine there's already lots of talk in royal circles about exactly what type of guy Tyler Perry is and whether Prince Harry may have experienced any of these advances. Queer Lips of Truth posted, I wonder if Tyler Perry and Prince Harry had similar encounters, and I can understand why people would ask that question. So let me return to my superstar panel now, Father Calvin Robinson and Raja Miah. Father Calvin, the problem that Meghan Markle has here is that she is so holier than thou. With anyone else, the slightest hint of an accusation means she throws people under the bus. By the way, including her own father, including her own sister, including her own brother. These accusations against Tyler Perry are incredibly serious. Now, you know, because of my personal experience with false accusations, I of course believe that he is innocent until proven guilty. However, it almost feels like Meghan Markle is just planning to ignore the entire thing because Tyler Perry is a very famous, very rich celebrity who has given her access in the past to his home, his mansion, and his private jet. What do you make of these claims?
It is incredibly sleazy, but that entire industry is incredibly sleazy and debauched, isn't it? But you're absolutely right in that he is innocent until proven guilty. But it will be interesting to see how much of a good friend she actually turns out to be, and if she is going to be there and support her friend, or even be passive in the relationship and still say things like he's innocent until proven guilty, or will she just throw him under the bus and cut all ties as she has done in the past? Well, I suppose time will tell very shortly.
Raja Miah, what do you make of this?
She won't she won't throw him under the bus. The relationship is worth too much to her, and just looking at her from a distance and following this story, she's a particular type of woman, Dan. I'm sure there are men like that as well, but she's a particular type of person and currency. She judges relationships and currency and what she can get out of it. And she'll be making those calculations, I think, here, first and foremost.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, look, the problem is, Father Calvin, it's like, is Meghan Markle going to say, oh, there's one rule for my very famous friends and another rule for the friends that I feel like are disposable?
Well, we know that she's always looking out for herself and what she can get out of situations, such as where she lives and the people she hangs around with in LA, and using her friends like Oprah for puff pieces and calling it journalism and staying in Tyler's properties and such. So who knows? I don't know, but I don't trust her to be acting in good faith. Let's just put it that way.
Well, no, I don't either. But I think, Raja, for me, as a gay man, this is also an example of why it's just better to be very honest about who you are. Because, of course, I think everyone in the industry knew that Tyler Perry was gay. But for some reason, he's been hiding that. He hasn't admitted that. And I think that's where you get into issues.
Yeah, it didn't suit his image, his persona. I mean, it's all false, isn't it? All of it is false, and it's a false world. It's a false, and it's a sleazy world. It's a sleazy industry, isn't it, Dan? And
indeed, which is why, Father Calvin, can I just get your response to his absolute chic at claiming that he is almost on too much of a moral high ground to even countenance the fact that he might attend a Church of England christening for Princess Lilibet that would have been attended by the late Queen Elizabeth II. I mean, who does this guy think he is?
I didn't understand that. That was very strange. When he was invited to be a godfather, he's like, yeah, I'll do it, but I'm not going to do it if you're going to do it over there and do it properly.
Yes, that's exactly what he said.
That's not your place to dictate how they do the ceremony. Either you accept the privilege or you don't. And actually, I don't know if he's in a place to accept it. To be a godfather, you have to be a Christian. You have to promise to make sure that the child is raised in the Christian faith. That's the promise of God. It's not just a honorific title that you join the party. It means something. And so I don't know if he's in a position to actually be a godparent, to be honest.
Father Calvin Robinson, Raja Miah, do stand by, because coming up in just 1 minute, I know a lot of you were very touched yesterday by the death of our good friend, Kim Woodburn, my favourite guest really across all of my shows. But there's been a huge scandal brewing all day over the reaction that Lorraine Kelly had when delivering the breaking news live on ITV. I'm going to show you what happened and show you why it happened in just 1 minute. You don't want to miss this. Don't go anywhere. But first, the great thing about having you here on Outspoken is that I know you're awake to the massive problems with the mainstream media and the disturbing realities that just mean it's impossible to trust the so-called fact checkers who try and dictate the narrative. Now, given we love the news and we do want to be informed, but no longer believe so much of what the establishment gatekeepers tell us, it can sometimes leave us in quite a predicament. But don't worry, I have an amazing solution for you. It's called Ground News. It is the best way to stay informed and cut through media bias and manipulative narratives so you can get the facts for yourself. Now, I use Ground News every day. I have it on my phone as an app and in my bookmarks online on my laptop and my desktop computer because it's come so essential to my daily life. You can see it for yourself at ground.news/outspoken. I've got an amazing offer for you in just one moment. But before I tell you about that, I want to show you this incredible website and app in action. So let's use the shocking story, you know, a story I'm very passionate about, of the incarceration of the UK's political prisoner, the grieving mother and housewife Lucy Connolly, who remains behind bars after one tweet and had her appeal rejected, sparking outrage across the world. Now, you can see in one place 37 sources covering this story, but what Ground News does is instantly show how the story is being covered by the media, broken down by whether they lean to the left or the right. It's called the bias distribution chart. Then, if you scroll down, you can actually see every headline about the story along with the political bias and ownership of the publication. Interestingly and promisingly, in this case, 32% of the sources are independent. Now, the left covered the story predictably. Wales Online flagged her racial hatred. The Daily Mirror went full-on political propaganda with the headline, Tory councillor's wife jailed for tweeting set fires to hotel, loses appeal bid. But the coverage on the right-leaning outlets, far more accurate. Guido Fawkes tapped into the horror of Starmer backing the 31-month sentence for one tweet, and the Daily Express said her incarceration is a moral stain on Britain's justice system. The Spectator simply said, quite accurately, she is in prison because of her politics, while my friend Alison Pearson spoke to Lucy in prison for the Daily Telegraph. Now, my favourite feature of Ground News is the blind spot feed. It surfaces upwards of 20 stories every day that receive the majority of coverage from one side of the political spectrum. So if you love the news like I do, the blind spot feed is the best way to get a balanced perspective on what is happening. So now it's time for the deal. Go to ground.news/outspoken, click on the link in the description box below, or scan the QR code on screen if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, and you will get 40% off the same Vantage plan I use for unlimited access. That's ground.news/outspoken. But now, back to the show. Breaking today, growing fury over Lorraine Kelly's completely inappropriate death announcement of the late, great TV legend Kim Woodburn live on ITV yesterday. Now, I was really shocked by this and horrified because, of course, I appeared on Lorraine's show for 10 years. But Kim Woodburn was a very special woman to me, a total legend of the industry, who came from being a working class cleaner to one of our on-screen favourites. And my God, she was outrageous. And I love the fact that she would burst the bubble so often of prissy TV celebrities, especially those working for ITV Daytime, which is clearly the reason behind Lorraine Kelly's disgust, which I'm going to get into in just one moment. But John James on X was the first to point out exactly what Lorraine did. It's now gone viral. He wrote, I know you're phoning it in until your contract ends in 2026, but at least announce Kim Woodburn's death without sounding like you're talking about roadworks on the M4 southbound. And indeed, I was actually, and remember, I know Lorraine well, I was actually so shocked that she even agreed to read it because, let me tell you, if you hate someone that much, that you cannot even show 1 ounce of sympathy or empathy about their death. Remember, this is not a murderer. This is not a criminal. This is not even a politician who you don't like. This is a celebrity beloved by many millions who you have an issue with because she's previously called out your employer. Then you know what? Say nothing. Say nothing. Refuse to read the statement because I'm sorry, Lorraine, this just makes you look so bad. Watch.
News
news just breaking in the last few minutes. Kim Woodburn, who I'm sure you know, well, she's died at the age of 83. Famous, of course, for How Clean Is Your House and her controversial time on Celebrity Big Brother. A representative for Kim said, "It is with immense sadness that we let you know our beloved Kim Woodburn passed away yesterday following a short illness." Here with the stories that have got us all talking this morning.
Lorraine Kelly, you ain't all that, dear. You ain't all that.
And that was the reason behind Lorraine Kelly's underwhelming death announcement. Here's the full clip of what Kim Woodburn said on GB News.
Look, my love, she's a stupid, stupid woman. Let's face it now. How old is she? 63. She's like a child in a playground. He is in there. He's doing a splendid job. He's polite and courteous. He's done the trial and got every star. Leave him alone. Lorraine Kelly, you ain't all that, dear. You ain't all that.
And Lorraine isn't used to being called out. And indeed, I know for a fact, because it was during my time at Woke ITV, that Kim Woodburn challenged the Loose Women in a shocking on-air confrontation. And as a result of that, I know that she was blacklisted at the broadcaster. She was despised at the broadcaster. And they were very, very sensitive to her ongoing criticism because really, most celebrities are not prepared to call out Woke ITV. But Kim was, because as she told me many times, both on and off screen, Dan, I don't need the money. I'm a cleaner. I spent decades of my life scrubbing other people's toilets. I never believed that I would earn thousands and thousands of pounds for appearing on screen. And what that meant is that Kim was prepared to say the unsayable about some people who were considered untouchable in the TV industry, including for a period of time Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby, even though people know the truth about those two now. So this was what Kim Woodburn had to say about that Loose Women confrontation. I mean, it was quite a moment.
Dan, it was terrible. And another thing, her sister.
Yeah.
You see, when I walked out there, I thought, I've been lied to. Because there was Janet Street Porter with a judge's what have you. I thought, this is a Mickey take. I thought, this is not to settle anything. I'm being stitched up. Then I saw her, that thing of a sister, who was leaning on her shoulder, mocking me. She was going, I thought, what is this? They'd set me up, that TV company. They told me it was a peaceable. Why was her sister, you've never seen since, on with her, leaning on her shoulder, sniggering at me, Dan? She was mocking me, sniggering as I was a piece of filth. There was Janet Street Porter with this damn thing. Dan, they set me up. They wanted a show. They bloody got one. They set me up.
They did.
And when I'll never forget, and it's a hard thing to say, I was very upset, and I said that they continue this. They would continue this. I thought, you fool pigs.
And that was Kim's final interview, by the way. You can watch the whole thing on my YouTube page. But it wasn't just on my show that she was prepared to be open about the truth. I mean, here she was telling a podcast about exactly why she decided to expose, and that's what she did, Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield.
Tell you the truth, they were not asked to cover the Queen's funeral. They sneaked in and they put these darn imitation press things they got. So they look as they sneaked in because they wouldn't stand in a queue. They're far too high and mighty. It is true. Don't listen to another word they say. They were not contracted. They were not allowed to film. Nobody was. So they did sneak in. And so they should have lost their job because there's many a person standing there with people in wheelchairs.
David Beckham as well waited in the queue.
David and many famous people. And so Susanna Reid, her mother was in a wheelchair and she stood with her mother for 6 hours. And I think that's a lovely girl. And I think, but when those two think we're so high and mighty, we can sneak in and people in wheelchairs, I'm disgusted. And that you did it, you two. Get you, I don't want to.
And oh my goodness, they didn't like her as a result. My superstar panel back with me, Father Calvin Robinson, Raja Miah. Father Calvin, look, someone's just died, and this is a good person. Okay, now Lorraine Kelly might not like her because of her previous criticism of herself or of ITV daytime shows. But can you understand why there is this growing fury over the way that she announced her death? It was almost as if she was talking about, you know, let's imagine if Myra Hindley had died, for example, not a beloved celebrity of millions who, remember, found fame, Calvin, as a cleaner on How Clean Is Your House. It was a brilliant showbiz story, you know, a working class girl done good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you in that if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. I don't understand why Lorraine had to read that out. She didn't have to have that on her show. So if you don't like the person you're speaking about, then don't bring it up, especially if it's an obituary. I think Kim Woodburn was fantastic. I think she was great fun. She was always good to see on your show. And I hope she rests in peace and may light perpetual shine upon her.
Raja Miah, what did you make of Lorraine's announcement, and can you understand why there's so much anger about this today? I think probably Lorraine underestimated the popularity of Kim Woodburn, who in recent years has become almost like a cult-like figure.
She's a legend. I mean, I enjoyed her. Every time she ever said anything, I thought, I'm going to sit down and listen to what she's got to say, because she was forthright, wasn't she? And she wasn't polished, and she... And I think that's what set her apart. And Lorraine clearly hated her. You could see she clearly hated her. And they also played the music, didn't they? You know, when she was just matter-of-factly referencing, oh, well, she's died. There was the music going on. So I don't think it was just Lorraine Kelly on her own. I think that entire world didn't really have time for her. And, you know, may she rest in peace. But I think what Kim Woodburn has done is like, well, there you go. I was right, and this is what these people really are like.
Yeah.
And it's a reflection of them rather than any reflection on Kim.
Well, indeed, I just wanted to play you one more moment from my final interview with Kim because it felt particularly relevant this week. She called out David Beckham, who is now Sir David Beckham, and she really hoped that King Charles wasn't going to be sucked into his PR attempts to receive that gong, and unfortunately he was. Watch.
I know people adore David Beckham. I don't know David Beckham. He's probably a lovely chap. If he crawls any more to get a knighthood, he's got a permanent brown ring round his nose, dear.
And
permanent brown
he's
ring
not a
round his
nice
nose.
guy. See, this is the other thing that I can't stand.
Did you
It's
remember
like,
what he wrote on that email and it came into the papers?
exactly,
Oh,
that was the real David Beckham.
But you see, now you see, the Queen of England wasn't fooled by this. Our Queen Elizabeth, bless her, was not fooled by this. She was a shrewd, wonderful queen. I hope that King Charles, with respect to you, sir, I hope you're not fooled by him either. He's crawling all around you now.
He's going to be fooled.
But he wants a knighthood.
And Father Calvin, he was fooled. Kim was right.
Yeah,
he was fooled.
Unfortunately so, but this was one of many. We saw that our beloved Mayor of London was also knighted recently. So it's not a sign of honour or duty or service to the nation anymore, is it? I wonder what the real process is and how these deals are made, who arranges it, and what actually they have to do in order to get it.
I know, Raja, I know you have an MBE, which is very deserved, but can you understand why folk like me now feel like the honours system is just totally corrupt? Like, I never thought I would say that, but I just, it makes me so mad these days. Sir Sadiq Khan, no way. Sir Sadiq Khan, who won't even admit, by the way, that rape gangs even exist.
The former chief executive of my town, who's now moved on to Tameside, came as the fixer from Blackburn, where the rape gangs exist, came to Oldham to try and fix and manage the situation, and now he's in Tameside, Angela Rayner's backyard. He was awarded an MBE, and I think sadly, it's all fixed. And if it was my choice, I probably wouldn't have taken it. But my mother loved the Queen. We come from a family of people who respect the monarch. My mother loved the Queen, and God rest her soul, it was her proudest day of a son who'd caused her so much angst, I think. So I'm pleased I took it, but at the same time, I understand yours and Father Calvin's position. I think the system is rigged, and it's increasingly about backslapping those.
No, I mean, I so understand why you took it. My mum would do it. Would do exactly the same thing, and especially when the late Queen was there. Thank you both, by the way. So much brilliant feedback. Raja, lots of people saying, like Sean Owens here saying, Dan, please have Raja on more often. Claire Mitchell writing, Raja has been working at the front line of this. He isn't jumping on the bandwagon like others can do. He wants the truth, not the likes. So please do come back. And Trish has said here, love Father Calvin, would love to meet him. Well, maybe you can one day. Maybe you can one day when
Come
we
to
have our
church.
first outspoken event. Oh, yeah, or just attend Father Calvin's church in Grand Rapids, Michigan. But look, thank you both so much. Absolute pleasure to have you. We covered it all today. We covered it all from the very heavy to the very light. Absolute pleasure. We will speak soon. And actually, more feedback on this whole issue coming in from you. Emma Coots on Sheila Fogarty wrote, that woman Fogarty is the most despicable. She should not be allowed to sit there and deny the truth. And on the abortion issue, Simon Brandy posted, let me get this straight. You can lawfully murder a baby but go to prison for praying near an abortion zone. You couldn't make it up. And that is where we're at. That is where we're at. It's absolutely shocking. Now, it's been a very tight run thing for Greatest Britain Union Jackass today. So here's a reminder of your nominees. Sheila Fogarty, nominated by Boggy Wood, who said she is a shining example of stupid who still doesn't believe that rape gangs are Pakistani. Narinder Kaur, nominated by The Grift Report, who said gone very silent when their grooming gang report was published, realising she's on the wrong side of history like the rest of the lefties. And Tonya Antonazi, MP, nominated by History Nerd and 89. She said, she described her as a sick, evil woman who tabled this amendment. And yeah, gosh, what a plethora of options today. As I say, it's been very close. In third place with 22% of the vote, Tonya Antonazi, MP. The runner-up with 38% of the vote, Narinder Kaur. But today's Union Jackass, for her ongoing denial of the rape gang scandal, is LBC presenter Sheila Fogarty. Now, time to reveal today's Greatest Britain, and it's on a similar theme. Perfect choice, brilliant woman, have so much respect for her. Sammy Woodhouse, nominated by Paul Smill 784 for being a survivor of the racist Pakistani rape gangs who found the strength to fight the cultural abomination after being abandoned by authorities and left at the mercy of protected Pakistani men. Honestly, Sammy Woodhouse is one of those people who should be receiving every damn award going. Because without her, we might not be here. Without her, we might not be here starting to discover the truth today. And I know she's going to keep fighting. And there's no golden gooses with Sammy Woodhouse. She's going for everyone who has some type of complicity in this scandal. Great show today. Thank you so much for your company. But don't worry, if you're a royal fan, we're moving to Substack for the uncancelled after show. Buckingham Palace hits back at Meghan Markle's claims that she wants the truth about her time in the royal family to be revealed. We're going to team up with the Royal News Network for all the latest, including, by the way, this breaking news. What's behind Catherine, the Princess of Wales, pulling out of Royal Ascot today? So at this stage, we move off YouTube and Rumble. We move to Substack to continue the uncancelled after show at www.outspoken.live. Now, we're going to be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time live, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hit subscribe right now if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. And most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.